Welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who thinks he would have an easier time surviving in 13 Ghosts than he would in Friday the 13th, 13 Assassins, the 13th Warrior, Assault on Precinct 13, Apollo 13, and District B13. It's David Cross.
Hey, what's going on?
I mean, that's a bold statement. You were saying that earlier. You think you could survive easier in 13 Ghosts than any of these movies.
It's true. I absolutely could. Are you kidding me?
I mean, why is it so, I mean, Apollo 13, we'd be done, right? Because the astronauts would be like, why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking like we haven't had the training. We're not Ryan Gosling, you know?
Yeah. Well, wouldn't that be,
Well, that was Apollo 11. No, that was, Apollo 11. That was Apollo 11, right?
I don't know. I'm trying to think which one is Tom Hanks. I thought that was Apollo 13.
Tom Hanks. You know what? Oh, yeah, that's Apollo. Yeah, I just wanted to throw in Ryan Gosling. I think if we were up there with Tom Hanks, he could maybe get us back. He could try his best, but we'd still be in trouble.
Yeah, I would be absolutely useless. I would just basically float around and be moral support.
And 13th Warrior, if you and I took part in a Viking battle against a bunch of cannibals, we'd be done.
Oh, yeah. They would probably shoot us with arrows before we got anywhere near it.
Yeah, we would get pegged by about 80 of them. There's one guy in that scene who just gets leveled by him. 13 Assassins, I'd be in B13, I'm 36. I can't jump like those guys.
No.
I have no chance.
I can never jump.
Friday the 13th, I mean, I think I'd have the easiest chance doing that because I don't like camping.
Yeah, that's true. But it really depends on what sequel you're talking about.
Well, you know what? If it was Jason Goes to Hell, Adam Clement and I just talked about that. I could be a random diner patron who gets shot. Or one of the cops who gets shot. Or I could be in Manhattan and get wiped out. Yeah. So I guess there's a possibility.
So I was thinking about this earlier, and I think the Jason that you don't want to screw with the most is the one from Jason X.
Oh, no way. That guy wipes out a bunch of gunmen.
Yeah, he wrecks Marines, basically. At least one Marine.
I gotta say, that's the dorkiest movie I've ever watched, and I kind of love it. And I mean that in a nice way.
Oh, yeah, it has amazing, fantastic one-liners. I remember seeing that in the theater, and I was so hyped for it. It was at that time when horror movies were all doing the monster in space thing, like Hellraiser, Leprechaun. They all did space, and it was so good. Friday the 13th is one of my favorite monster franchises. And that's the one I'm most scared about. And what's weird about that franchise, and I was also thinking about this, is that we don't really know Jason's power. We don't know if he's a zombie or if he's some type of revenant. He's kind of all over the place.
Is he? Well, I guess remember in Jason Goes to Hell, the Necronomicon awakens him. So then he's a little slug creature that can take over bodies.
And Jason Goes to Hell. Yeah. That's the one at the very beginning of the movie. He is blown up, and then he's taken to a morgue, and then the mortician eats his heart and turns into Jason. Yeah. And then the monster hunter shows up.
Creighton Duke.
Yeah, oh my God, I can't believe you remember that name. That's impressive.
I just potted about it last night with Adam Clement, and it's the one before this. It's going to be about Friday the 13th, Part 4. The final chapter, and Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday.
Oh my God. I'm really excited about that.
And I pushed Adam to the limit on that one. I got him frustrated because all I wanted to do was talk about Mahoney, and Jason Goes to Hell, a random character is told to clean up Jason. And Adam's head almost exploded because he's been wanting to talk about those movies for about 15 years now, and I just wanted to talk about Mahoney.
But the point I was making with that character is like, in the first, 3, he's a human, and then the fourth one, he's a human, and then he's a zombie for 2, and then by the time he gets to Jason X, he has regenerative capabilities. So you're never quite sure what he is.
Yeah, he was frozen for like 3,000 years.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
But I guess we could still get away from him. Like we'll get away from the human ones.
Yeah, we could walk. We could walk away from him.
Well, maybe he has that weird ability to just pop up anywhere.
You know, I did a data post on Movies, Films, and Flicks where the girl's in the little disco lounge and Jason takes Manhattan, and everyone thinks that he's teleporting, but he's just shuffling side to side. I did the time on it. I'm like, he could just side shuffle
and just make it there.
And that's why she looks so confused. She's like, why is this hockey masked man shuffling in front of me?
Was he trying to dance with her?
I think so, because he was in a little disco area. So I got to say that this podcast is you're the reason why we did this one. You messaged me one day and you're like, hey, I think 13 Ghosts would be great for your pod. And I said, well, you should come on and do it.
Yeah. And the reason I messaged you about this particular podcast is that, or this particular episode or movie, is that it's very strange. And I remember loving it when I was like 17 and 18. I was really into it. And I wanted to go back and revisit it. It also helps that I'm really into horror movies, and this is one that I had very good fond memories of. I mean,
watching it again, so I watched it again, and I read the review from Ebert, and he gave it, I think, 0.5 out of 4. He hated it. But he talked about the set design and the production design in this film, and watching it again after so many years, I never appreciated any of the sound design, but I never appreciated the production design, but watching it again, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the best parts of the movie. I think it doesn't give enough credit for how good it looks. And the idea that you're at a haunted house and instead of having it be dark and black and covered, it's see-through, it's glass. It flips the script on the entire concept.
Yeah, and I don't know if we watched the same making of documentaries, but I loved how the director, Jeff Beck, who also did Ghost Ship and a lot of special effects in prior movies, he was talking about how it was a really cool idea, but it was a pain in the ass to shoot because everywhere you looked, there was a crew member drinking coffee, which when I was on set, that would have been me because I drank a lot of coffee on film sets. So I would have been in camera. They would have hated me on that film set. There's Hoff in the back drinking coffee again. But, I mean, this is not daring, but they thought outside the box. But then they kind of put themselves in a box in terms of shooting and shadows and reflections. And they admitted that it was very hard. But technically, I think this is a very polished movie, like you said.
Yeah, I agree. We did definitely watch the same behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I wanted to mention from the behind the scenes is that they described the ghosts as juicy.
Yeah. He said more juice.
Yeah, that's the craziest description of a ghost I've ever heard. It's also the absolute most disturbing. Like, I never want to be somewhere and someone's like, make this dude more juicy.
I got a really random fact for you, and the only way I know this is because I read a book about the guy who directed all the Ernest movies, John Cherry. Mm-hmm. And when he made Ernest Scared Stupid, he admitted that he made the creature too scary and there was too much snot on the creature. So he he said, I just want more snot. And then Disney was pissed at him because they're like, you frightened children all over the world with this film because he was so juicy. So it worked in this movie. I remember when I watched this, in 2001 in the theater, I was 19 and I was jumping all over the place. I remember this movie hitting me pretty hard.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a comment about Ernest Scared Stupid. Uh-oh. I went as Ernest 2 Halloweens ago from that movie, and I had a jar of Miak.
Did you really?
And no one in my office got it. And they're like, who are you? And I was like, I'm Ernest. Would you like some Miak?
Miak? Pure Bulgarian Miak. I would have high-fived you, dude.
Yeah, I felt so old. I was like, I can't believe none of you know who this is.
I want to do it. I want to get dressed like him, carry around a turtle from Ernest Goes to Camp, and just sing that song during karaoke. Like, gee, I'm glad it's raining. Just belt that song out. I love those movies.
So I also read Ebert's review, and he had some really good one-liners in there.
Yeah, he did.
Like, the experience of watching the film is literally painful.
Yeah.
It's one thing.
And you should watch it from the theater next door.
Yeah, that's a really good one. He also did a really great description of the ghosts. He called them, they look like the pages of heavy metal brought to life, and I thought that was a wonderful description. But in my research,
he got the movie, right?
He got half the movie. Yeah. Like he's right in the terms that it's weak on some plot, and they definitely rehash a lot of things multiple times to pad it out to 91 minutes.
They tell you the same ghost 13 times. Here's the 13 ghosts for the 14th time, and you're like, oh, brother.
So there's this scene right before they get to the library to get protected, and it's just like them showing the hallway. There's nothing happening in it. It's just the hallway. They're like, we're contractually obligated to do 91 minutes. Here's a minute of hallway.
Yeah. He's like, we built this. We're shooting it.
But what I was getting at is that it led me, when I was reading Ebert's review, it led me down a rabbit hole, and I found this list of Ebert's most hated movies. Did you find that as well?
Yeah, and I got his book. I hated this movie. I have that. I think I read that review in it. He hates this movie.
Yeah, but I wanted to mention some of the movies that it's like in the same range as.
Ooh.
And these are movies that I don't think are bad, but Ebert included it in his list. So there's Joe Dirt.
I love Joe Dirt.
Yeah, absolutely. This one's gonna blow your mind. Stargate.
What?
I know. Constantine.
What?
And then Resident Evil.
I love Resident Evil.
Yeah, I love all those movies. Like Roger Ebert and I, we don't get along apparently.
We're potting about Constantine next week. That's our next podcast.
Oh my God, this is so many previews.
I'm dropping and listen to episode 53 where we talk about one of these movies. I'm sure that we've talked about already. I guarantee it. Go to episode 53. I don't know what it is, but now I have to say I know we're jumping all over the place, and this is a spoiler podcast. We're spoiling everything, but when I watched this movie, I specifically remember the Juggernaut, correct? The Juggernaut?
Yes, the one at the beginning?
Yeah, I remember the Juggernaut at the end picking up Matthew Lillard and breaking his back on his knee. So when I saw him pick Matthew Lillard up, I'm like, oh, he's about to slam his knee into his back and snap it like Bane in Dark Knight Rises. And then he smashes Lillard on that pole above his head. And I freaked out. I was like, what?
Yeah, when I first saw this in the theater, I lost my mind because not only was Matthew Lillard the best character in this film, he was probably the best actor, at least the best actor at the time in the film. I mean, Tony Shalhoub's great, but he wasn't swinging for the fences.
No, this is a paycheck movie for Tony Shalhoub.
Yeah, definitely. But I lost my mind because like he's the only character I like. What's going on?
I'm a big Matthew Lillard guy. I've been defending him for a long time. I was stoked to see him in Twin Peaks, The Descendants. He was in that show, The Bridge, really good. I've always thought he was a good actor, and I really liked his turtleneck in the beginning of this movie. His turtleneck game was strong.
His wardrobe choice was strong. After he took his orange jumpsuit off, and he had like a laser suit underneath.
He looked awesome.
I know.
Now, I do want to say something. This is the only movie ever that features a fist fight between F. Murray Abraham and Tony Shalhoub.
Was it a fist fight?
I mean, they threw a couple knuckles and then they started wrestling. And I just went, is this an action scene between F. Murray Abraham and Tony Shalhoub? I'm like, this is amazing. And then Tony Shalhoub does a 15-foot leap. I went, hey, Tony Shalhoub. He just leaped like 15 feet to save the day at the end. Like,
here's the thing about that leap. What did he accomplish? Everything else was already blowing up.
He basically trapped himself.
Yeah. he barely saved the day. The housekeeper maid was the one who blew everything up in the basement.
Yeah, she did all the work.
Yeah, that's why they pair.
Yeah. You're right. I like it too. Where she's like, I don't do any of this stuff, but then she saves the day. That's probably what she does in the house. Keeps everyone sane. Because we learn in the beginning her cooking's not good, and Shannon Elizabeth has to cook, and her cooking's bad. Because Tony Shalhoub gives it a look.
Well, I remember Shannon. Was it Shannon Elizabeth?
Yeah, Shannon Elizabeth.
I remember her being a more significant part in this film.
Yeah,
when I watched it as a teenager.
There's no role, right? She disappears.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I like bathrooms. That's her entire story arc. I like bathrooms. She disappears and then shows back up, minus the scratches from the jackal, and gets saved by her dad.
Whoa, her shirt was back in place.
I mean, I don't know about her shirt, but her face got torn up.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
But her face was fine at the end. Her shirt, I don't know.
She loved bathrooms.
Yeah, that's a really weird story arc.
There's a 10-minute scene inside a bathroom in this movie where she's just looking in a mirror.
Yeah, smelling perfume, and then being sort of haunted by the angry princess.
Yeah, she does a fake-out stab at Shannon. Now, would these ghosts actually hurt people?
So that's a really good question. I think some of them would, but maybe not all of them. Did you watch the behind the scenes that gave you the backstory about all of them?
I have a link here that explains